Maxie, you roll it right? Oh,
Mike.
It's okay. It's a hardtail.
Yeah, it's tough. Torrent. Hey everybody, I'm Mike Kazmer. We're here in Sedona, Arizona for the annual Pinkbike field trip. We're taking a look at a whole bunch of affordable trail bikes. Next to me, we've got the Norco Torrent. This is a hardcore hardtail aimed at riders who aren't willing to let a lack of rear suspension prevent them from tackling some seriously rowdy terrain. The Torrent rolls on 29-inch wheels, 150mm fork up front, and a chromoly steel frame. The geometry numbers are actually very similar to the Norco sight, and that's the full suspension, all-mountain, enduro-oriented bike. So you got a 480mm reach on a size large. You have a 64-degree head angle. That's pretty slack, especially for a hardtail. And you have 425mm chainstays. The Torrent retails for $2,999. Now there is a less expensive version, and I know the theme of this is affordable trail bikes. I decided to bring this one in order to compare how it rides and the components that you get on a hardtail versus a full suspension bike at the same price. So what kind of components are you gonna find on a $2,999 hardtail? On this bike, you got RockShox Lyric Ultimate fork up front, SRAM's powerful Code R brakes, Maxxis Assegai tires front and rear, 2.5 inches wide, and those have the EXO Plus casing. So a little bit tougher casing, which is nice on a hardtail, and especially around here where there's lots of sharp rocks, cactus, all sorts of things that want to give you a flat tire. When you take all those components, hang them off a steel frame, you end up with a total weight of 33.7 pounds. So not the lightest bike, but that's not really what this thing's designed for. Those are the basic details. We've been riding this thing all over Sedona. Let's dive into some ride impressions.
Kazmer, tell me about setup. How did you set up the rear suspension on this?
Lots of air in the rear suspension to run it super firm.
Yeah, it felt a little harsh though, I bet.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Okay, tell me what you did though.
Yeah, so obviously no need to set up a rear shock. That's the appeal of a hardtail to a lot of people, simplicity. All you have to do is dial in that fork and you're ready to go. In this case, RockShox Lyric, really easy to set up. Put it, I think 85 pounds in there for both of us. And then turn a few dials, clicked a few things, ready to go.
A couple clicks of low speed, hit the trail. There's really not much else to do.
So what's it like to climb on a not super light, but very slack and very long hardtail? It kind of depends what you're going for. Spinning up smoother sections of fire road wasn't an issue, felt pretty comfortable, but there is a section of road around here, it's called Schnebley Road. It's just full of these kind of like jutting baby head rocks and things, and on a full suspension bike, you don't notice it much.
If you're sitting down, obviously it's gonna take more out of you. Very efficient.
Yeah, super efficient, but you just have to kind of decide what you're into, and on the rougher stuff, that extra feedback is noticeable. But I did clean some sections on other more technical, tricky sections of trail that I usually dab on.
Yeah, so for me, it was a bit of a mixed bag with the climbing. The bike, honestly, it feels slow on the climbs. It felt like a big, heavy all-mountain bike. It's essentially a 34-pound all-mountain hardtail, and I never felt fast on it. We're gonna talk about times, but I had my fastest climbing time on it, even though it never felt fast.
Yeah, and you've got those big Maxxis Assegai tires, which are not known for their quick rolling speed. So yeah, you must have found that magic vortex too. My times weren't as fast for climbing.
They were slower than mine.
They were on this bike. But either way, it gets the job done. But if you're kind of looking for more cross-country hardtail, this obviously isn't it. This is, I'd say an enduro or almost a downhill hardtail, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something you're gonna buy to go flying up any hills. The type of person that doesn't mind climbing this thing, you might have your knee pads on and a big backpack and you're going to ride some gnarly stuff. You don't care how long it takes you to get to the top.
Yeah.
Kazmer, how did it handle the tech stuff for you though?
You do notice that it's a big bike. I mean, it's a 64-degree head angle, which is pretty slack for any style bike. Fairly long front center, kind of shorter back end.
480.
Yeah, it's a 480 reach, 425mm chainstay. So it seems like it'd be hard to handle, but once you kind of get accustomed to putting that little extra work, it does get through everything pretty well. Right. I actually was able to clean some pretty techie bits of trail out here. Again, you just kind of have to get in the right mindset. It's not going to just dart up the hill, but if you cruise, it'll get around everything you want it to.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it almost feels like it's pivoting on that super short rear end and swinging over like a big cruise ship. But yeah, it didn't really, some of that stuff is tight and technical, and it wasn't that big of a pain, or it wasn't any more difficult than on the full suspension bikes. Let's just say that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of adapting to the geometry.
Exactly.
If you hop on this expecting it to be a cross-country bike, you'll be disappointed. But if you think of it more like an enduro bike, it's going to feel pretty normal.
Yes, exactly. we've done all the climbing. You get to the top. It's time to go down the hill on your all-mountain hardtail. Casimir, tell me about it.
I'm glad it has a good fork.
Yes.
Yeah.
And great geometry.
Great geometry, powerful brakes. So you have everything there. You just got to deal with that back end not having suspension, which takes a little bit of time. Once you get used to it, it's kind of addictive. You know, I can see why people would search out this kind of hardcore hardtail. You know, you're probably not going to be able to go as fast. I mean, that one guy in your neighborhood, he'll be able to go fast on his hardtail.
How does he do that all the time?
I don't know. But most people, you'll be faster on a full suspension bike. But there's something kind of satisfying about cleaning a tricky section without rear suspension.
It's definitely more rewarding, that's for sure. With the Torrent, you have a lyric on the front here, and you're going to use it. Definitely lean on the fork. You have a big, long front end. Your axle's out in front of you. You have a little short rear end. You just forget about the back end. It just does whatever. Who cares?
Yeah,
it's not even there.
You do kind of ride that fork, and it's nice that it works well because it's helping take the edge out those hits. I mean, you'll feel a little more tired at the end of the day, but you know, I had a good time on it. Would it be your only bike?
Most definitely not. But I think that for a lot of people with better joints, that things that don't get so sore, you know, same with you. I think for a lot of people, it's let's put it this way, it's more than capable enough to be your only bike. If you have the skills and like to send it.
Yeah.
Speaking of sending it, it's definitely a bike that responds better to that sort of attitude than someone who's really playful. You know, you might be looking at a hardtail because you think, hey, I like to jump off this and manual that and do whatever over this, you know. It doesn't feel like that kind of bike. It rides like a heavy all-mountain bike. I mean, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, but that term planted comes to play a lot with a full suspension bike. This feels like a planted hardtail. I mean, even when you're hitting some jumps and things, we've got the Kona Hanzo on test here. A lot shorter, a lot steeper. That thing feels like a dirt jumper. This feels more like you're kind of more like a sled.
Can you have a ground-hugging hardtail?
Because that's got one here.
Yeah, that's exactly what the Norco feels like. And I think, you know, if you're the type of person that wants to ride a hardtail in a bike park, there you go.
Your A-line machine here.
Yeah.
I wasn't the fastest on my Torrent. I actually had my slowest overall time on our test loop. My climbing time, I think I was 6th out of 8th. And I actually had my slowest downhill time as well.
So hardtails require the most skill to ride. So that might be one of the reasons why Casimir had some of his slowest
Apparently
times.
my downhill skills are rusty.
So my loop time, it was the 6th fastest bike out of the 8 bikes. I actually had my fastest climb time on this thing. You know, I was sitting here and I was telling you how slow it felt on the climb, but the watch doesn't lie, I guess, eh? And
apparently not.
Apparently not. There you go. Downhill time, 6th out of 8. So neither Casimir and I had great times on the downhills or fast times on the downhills. But again, a bike like this, I mean, it's not really about going all that fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's more, I mean,
it's about surviving for me without that rear suspension.
No, it's not your race bike. You know, it's not a cross-country race bike. And really it wants steeper terrain, even than what we have here. Our descent portion of our time testing lap, it's not super crazy. It's great for a trail bike, but I kind of would be curious to see how this would handle at home where you have steeper, longer descents. I think then it would kind of feel a little more like what it's designed for.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you bought yourself a Torrent hardtail. What are you gonna upgrade? Probably nothing. I mean,
I don't know what I would upgrade on this. And that's one of the reasons we brought this bike in. There was a less expensive version we considered. We decided to bring this one just in order to compare it against some of the other full suspension bikes we have here. Turns out you get more for your buck with the hardtail.
It was really nice to ride this bike with proper brakes that are always going to work, code brakes and a lyric fork. There's no room to upgrade that would make a difference here anyway.
We got a GX drivetrain, so that actually has a 10 to 50 tooth cassette.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the workhorse drivetrain. Shifter feels good.
Yep.
You can actually use the matchmaker to make it all feel nice in the cockpit there. So basically, very well spec'd for the price. You know, I don't know if it's going to be your entry-level rider's bike. Your first bike might not be this, but if it was, you're not going to have to change anything for a long time.
Another standout is that Manic seat post. I've reviewed it before, and for the price, this thing just works so well. It's easily adjustable remote that is just like the paddle is right where you want it. The thing is just great. Other standout, the tires and that GX drivetrain, Casimir.
Yep, and the fork. I mean, really, there's not a lot to complain about. If I did have to complain, because sometimes that's my job, the stem. It's a 50 mil stem. I'd probably run a 40 mil on this just because of personal preference. And it's also kind of ugly.
It looks like it belongs. I mean, it looks like it belongs on the $1,400 Boss Nut.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's just a little thing. You could swap it out. It obviously doesn't affect the performance. It doesn't matter what your stem looks like as long as it holds everything together.
We're really reaching here to complain about components.
Yeah.
Norco, you've done a good job.
Yeah.
There's not much else to complain about
Swap
here.
the stem and you're totally dialed.
All right, so let's wrap this up with the Torrent, Casimir. What's your takeaway?
You know, for the rider that's kind of searching for that hardcore hardtail, kind of knows what they want that big slack bike without rear suspension, this is a great option. It's not going to hold you back as long as you've got the skills to
pay the bills.
Yeah, it works.
So at the same time, just because you're looking for a hardtail doesn't mean this is your hardtail. If you're the kind of person who wants to cover some ground and you want to cover it fast, I mean, even if there is gnarly stuff on that ground, this isn't the kind of bike that I would want to ride for 4, 5, 6 hours personally. So if that sounds like you, it's probably not the ideal bike for you, but if you like to get rowdy on a hardtail,
yeah,
this is the good one.
All right, that's a wrap on the Norco Torrent. Stay tuned for more videos from our Pinkbike field trip here in Sedona, as well as a roundtable discussion where we go over the pros and cons of all the bikes we have here to test.